First step to change the spindle in the Mast-R-Lift II is to remove the carriage nut cap. Remove the two socket head screws, then remove the carriage nut cap and the O-ring. Drop the carriage all the way down and then remove the carriage nut. Then remove the small O-ring that is between the carriage nut and the backlash nut and wind off the backlash nut. Then lay your Mast-R-Lift on its side and remove the 6 low head cap screws on the top surface. Now you can take the carriage and the shaft assembly off of the plate and lay the plate with the spindle assembly on a flat surface. Using a screwdriver, gently pry the spindle mounting block off of the plate. This removes the two dials, the cam dial and the spindle dial. Now remove the spindle from the spindle mounting block and drop in the new spindle, ensuring that the cam is in the position that allows the spindle to go in. Now place the spring washer on the bearing with the smaller portion of the diameter facing upwards. And take your Mast-R-Lift II top plate and the spindle mount assembly, holding the spindle mount assembly in your hands to ensure the spring washer doesn't fall out. Place the top plate on top and insert the 2 screws that you removed in a previous step. Now secure these 2 screws in position. Lay the plate back down on a flat surface and drop the carriage and shaft assembly back onto your Mast-R-Lift. Turn the Mast-R-Lift over on its side and rotate the shaft and the shaft mount so the tapped holes line up with the holes in the top plate, and insert 2 screws in this position. But don't tighten them in this position. And do the other shaft the same as you did this previous shaft. Once they're all in place, then you can secure the screws. Now lay the Mast-R-Lift back on a flat surface and wind the backlash nut onto the spindle with the notches downward. Wind it on about 2 inches. Place the small O-ring back onto the backlash nut. Now wind the carriage nut till it just touches the O-ring. Now line up the notch in the carriage nut with one of the notches in the backlash nut, just applying a little bit of tension. And ensure that the O-ring is not bulging out all the way around the diameter. Now line up the notch in the carriage nut with the dowel pin in your carriage. And slide the carriage up so the dowel pin engages the carriage nut. Hold the carriage up, place the O-ring back on top of the carriage nut, place the carriage nut cap back in position. And reinsert the 2 1/4-20 socket head screws. These screws can be tightened up in this position. Now we need to reinstall the dials. The dials are held with an O-ring. Just by applying pressure and rocking the dial back and forth, giving it a twist, it'll insert back onto the spindle. Now lock your cam. Take the cam dial, but ensure that it's lined up into the lock position, or the arrow is lined up into the lock position, and repeat the process to install the cam dial. Ensure that it's flush and below the surface, and you can check the cam lock. The last step is to ensure that the Mast-R-Lift will move smoothly. Wind the carriage so the carriage just about touches the O-rings on the shaft mounts. Ensure that the carriage spreader nut is loose. Now crack the 6 screws that you previously tightened up about 1/8 of a turn, just to take any stress off the carriage, and then retighten them all. The Mast-R-Lift should now travel very smoothly up and down. And that's it. The spindle for the Mast-R-Lift II is now reinstalled.